I can't remember, I will check it later. So in this paper she describes the division between public and private, and also the super heavy institutionalization of those limitations, but also the masculine, she says, or misogynist even, subject formation theories as focusing on how the borders between an individual and the rest are being produced, as precisely on one hand a form of exclusion of the affect, which she condemns, but also as a result of a, she doesn't say typically masculine paranoia, but this is basically what she's saying about it. So she basically speaks of a subject formation, for like classical liberal theory, subject formation as being as a form of delimitation of the subject from the outside and focusing on those borders, as a result of a fear of the other and otherness. So this is 1994, so I can't say if this is early Ben Habib, but let's say it's kind of mid Ben Habib. So there are various feminist critiques that somehow ally with your suggestion, as far as I understand it, to embrace the affect within the analysis of the subject formation, especially, and later also of how the public sphere is functioning. Because if we have the emotional subjects, which is a very Marxian issue, by the way. I mean, Marx. Okay, now I'm going into a very, but we didn't speak about Marx, which we should actually, so we'll do it next time or whatever. But Marx, when he, but Marx was one of those people who actually thought that affect is important for a human being. This is a very radical thesis in German philosophy, as you might know. So he speaks of love, for instance, as an instance and situation where the rational being is kind of overwhelmed with affect, and that this is a natural state of a human being also. So he wants the human being to be a holistic entity with emotions, with intellect, with everything. But in German philosophy, this doesn't happen very often. And there is an interesting moment in Kant also, where Kant explains in the second critique, so in the critique of practical reason, but also in the Prolegomena, that the ability of achieving one's own happiness is one of the conditions for acting morally. This is a super interesting moment, neglected in the general readings of Kant, because, of course, the reason and the capacity of acting in a rational manner is the dominant in Kant. But within the conditions of ever acting rationally, there is this condition of being able to provide for one's own happiness. So there is a moment, a tiny little moment, where a recognition of affect happens, and affect is not merely perceived as a, normally Kant writes in terms of pathology, actually, like the pathology of affect, or the pathology of emotions. He doesn't use the word, but affect or passions. So there are one or two tiny moments in the. Of course, there is a whole Spinozan tradition of affectivity and pulsions, I would say, or affects as constituting the subject. But this is not the tradition that Habermas is familiar with, I would say, but it's generally coming from, right? So the affect is basically condemned over there. So I think there are several feminists who are attempting to at first criticize the critical theory and generally the political philosophical tradition in order to make place for the affect and emotions. But then the problem starts with how they do it and whether there is a positive political theory of, for instance, of feminists who would include the women on the basis of embracing the affect. This doesn't happen very much. There is texts of Iris Marion Young called Trójka i Köger, where this kind of things happen. So there she traces down the behavioral and psychoanalytic psychologists in order to say that they are wrong about how humans develop, because it's not the question of sexual organs and it's not the questions of simply like nature of the humankind that women are not capable of throwing a ball somewhere with enough strength. She takes this funny example because it's funny, but also because it has been diagnosed by several specialists in different domains. So she criticizes them, and later she comes with a very Bourdieu theory of how gender roles are embodied and how people are educated and socialized in different ways. That also has repercussions for the body and later for the behavior. There is and Ben Habib's when Ben Habib writes her text about this paranoia of masculine subject and patriarchal philosophical tradition, she basically makes a reference to all those feminist researches and to a possibility of understanding human development and human behaviors as the ones that are shaped by the context and by the relations, etc. So this is never just affect, but it's rather a whole combination of like context, kinship, relations, responsibilities, and emotions. That they come usually in feminist theories. They usually come as a packet, if I may say. And this has repercussions for the understanding of the public sphere as one where individualized experiences and embodiment and individual histories have some meaning. But then there is, of course, the problem of how these meaning, affects, emotions, and all this, how these can be communicated and become intersubjective entities. So we, meaning like philosophers in the Western and especially German tradition, tend to think that the intersubjective and the individual affective are not combined or connected anyhow. So there is a whole effort within the feminist theory, as of now, I think, still on the stage of criticizing rather than producing a positive vision of the social that is being done. I don't know if I answered your question or remark, by the way. I'm thinking also that time is passing, which is not a very brave reflection, but I'm thinking also of this promise of discussing the rainbow, and actually I think that although it would be super cool to discuss it now and today, but we have like 5 minutes, so maybe we leave the rainbow to discuss with Navratek, where it might be fun because he wants to speak about Schmitt and all that. So instead of discussing with him whether Schmitt is a respected philosopher or not, we'll just jump into the rainbow discussion. And this also gives you the chance to get more ready to think about it and to focus on particular aspects of the public art and this particular example. I would also suggest, I believe I've sent you, but if I didn't, then please remind me, to take a look at least at the text of Rosalind Deutsch, which is like the key theorist of the public sphere and art. I believe, especially for people who want to actually write about art, this could be a wonderful reference. There's also a whole book by Rosalind Deutsch about public art and public sphere that you can consider to read, but maybe this is much, so at least the text would be cool. And yeah, but I believe there are still some, we have still like 5 or 10 minutes, so if you want to go for the discussion, please. Or we all want to go home. We do. Okay, so thank you very much, and we'll see each other in 3 weeks, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.